So why does he do it? Jesus tells him absolutely, very clearly, do not tell anyone about this healing. Do not. Go show yourself to the priest, make the offering that is required. That's part of Jewish law. Do that, but don't tell anybody about this. And yet he does. So why does he do it? Of course, we don't know what goes on in someone's head. That's part of the problem we get into sometimes. We just assume we know what people are thinking. But it's not too hard to think of some things that might have motivated this guy. I mean, for one, he just might have been crazy happy. You know, leprosy, this is more than being healed of an illness. Leprosy got you, moved out of the community. You could not live next to people. This disease was potentially very contagious, something we all in this day and age right now could appreciate. And so if you had leprosy, you had to live outside the camp, outside the city. And if you heard in the first reading, you also had to adjust your appearance. You had to tear your clothes, muffle your beard, so that if people saw you from afar, they would know that you might have leprosy. You were unclean. And if you got close to somebody, you had to yell out, unclean. And now he doesn't have to do any of that anymore. He can come home. He can go to synagogue on Sabbath. He can do all sorts of things. And so maybe he's just so thrilled he just can't stop talking about it. It's entirely possible also he just needed an explanation. Because back to the house, his wife said, what happened? He's got to come up with something. He's got to say something. Maybe he just told the story when people asked, and it was such a good acting, big crowds. Maybe this guy says, hey, you're good. You could be really popular. You need some help. I'll help you. I'll get you a crowd. And maybe he just thinks he's doing it to help Jesus. And so you notice those are all pretty good reasons. They sound very plausible. They sound like, yeah, wait, what's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with it is that Jesus told him not to do it. And is that not something that you and I do on occasion? Maybe often. To take an example I've used before, take lying. The Bible very clearly says, do not lie under any circumstances for any reason. Just don't do it. And then what do? Oh, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want my spouse to worry. And so we lie. Or, there are people here, you wouldn't think of missing Mass on a Sunday. Here in town. It just wouldn't even cross your mind. But you're on vacation? Somehow, for some of us, it changes. The thinking changes. Because, we're on vacation. I have a birthday that happens some years to fall in Lent. One of those kind of birthdays. And it was not too many years ago that someone pointed out to me that I did not have an obligation to keep my Lenten commitment on my birthday. Okay. But you see the point. It does. It all sounds so reasonable. So reasonable, these excuses or these explanations, our motives, they all sound so reasonable. And so if you're going to sum it up, though, maybe the best way to sum this up is Proverbs 3:5. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. Trust in the Lord, not in yourself. And is that not what this guy did not do? He trusted in himself. He had some brilliant idea about why telling all these people that he got healed, why this was such a great idea. He trusted in himself. He did not trust in God. And, to go back to the my spouse will be worried. I've heard that a lot. You probably have too. Maybe you did it. Oh, I don't want to worry my spouse, so I won't tell them, or I'll tell it to them this way. I've heard lots of those stories. I have never once heard a story from the other spouse who said, I'm so glad they lied to me so I didn't worry. Because the thing is, we have to remember this matters. It sounds like, well, maybe these are small examples, maybe it doesn't matter. It matters. I mean, if you remember the end of the gospel there, it says that because of what this guy did, Jesus could no longer go into towns in an open way, which is what he was doing. He was going into people's towns, going into the synagogues, and he was teaching. Teaching first, healing later sort of thing. That was his priority. He wanted to teach. This guy doesn't know about Jesus' teaching ministry. He just got healed. And he's turned Jesus' ministry, quite unintentionally perhaps, into a healing ministry. All the people that flock to him now, they don't want him to, I don't need you to teach me anything, I just need you to heal me. It mattered to Jesus' ministry. It'll matter to us when we make those small little caveats. So let me end with a positive example of this. This comes out of my own experience, and I tell you this not to show off. I tell you this because it's just a really good example of trusting in God, not in our own understanding. It goes back about 20 years, I guess, something like that. I was dating this amazing woman. And we had been dating for, 7, 8 years. And as you might expect, there was some understanding almost amongst all our mutual friends and even, I guess, maybe to ourselves that this was all leading to marriage. But I'm smart enough to know that you don't do things like that without inquiring of the Lord, so to speak. And I had learned early in my life how to discern. And so I took this to God. Is this what you want? And the answer came back, no. I just had this feeling in my soul that this was not what I was supposed to do. I was not supposed to marry this girl. Mind you, I did not have a single reasonable, rational explanation for why I would not want to marry her. She was a terrific woman, would have made a great wife, would have made a better mother, just a great all-round person. And so when we broke up over this, and friends of ours came to me, what's wrong with you? Why would you not marry this woman? And I didn't really have an answer to them because I couldn't point out a character flaw or something like that. She was great. All I had was this real definitive feeling that, no, that's not what God wants. Of course, it made a lot more sense to me and to our mutual friends some years later when the good Lord called me to priesthood. Then they could look at me and go like, oh, now we understand why God didn't want you to marry her. But you see the point. As I was discerning that at that time, Proverbs 3:5 is what I kept running through my head. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. Because if I had leaned on my own understanding, I would have married her. And I don't know what that does to my life. I don't know where that goes. But I got to assume I wouldn't be in front of you here. And so that's the bottom line. Perhaps something worth meditating on today. Let's do that. Let's trust in God with all our hearts. And let's not lean on our understanding.